Good to see you.
All right, good to see you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm good. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are now joined by Creighton head coach Jim Flannery and student athletes Morgan Malley and Mallory Brake. We will get started with an opening statement from Coach Flannery, followed by questions in the room and on Zoom for the student athletes. If you are joining us on Zoom, please use the raise hand function so I know you have a question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Yeah, we have a huge opportunity and a huge challenge tomorrow evening. UCLA is a really good team. I watched them early in the year a couple times and was super impressed with them. And then, you know, as you get busy in your conference season, you see a little bit less of them. But you know, they've got pretty much everything you need to be a great team. But I'd like to think that we do too. And I think yesterday, I thought we really clicked as a team. I thought we played like a mature group and we handled the moment, which I think is really important in an NCAA tournament. Because you can be a good team and fall flat in an NCAA tournament game if you don't kind of have the right approach and you're not connected and willing to help each other out, because everybody's nervous. They're a little more nervous, and I thought we got through some of those nerves early and played really well. And like I said, we're thrilled for the opportunity tomorrow night and to get to stay a little bit longer in Los Angeles because the weather, I think, is a little better than it is in Omaha. But we know what a challenge we have, but and way less prep time. I mean, I think that's the thing that, you know, when you get your assignment on Sunday, you got all week when you don't play till Saturday to get ready for that first opponent, and then it's a quick turnaround. So we won't be as, you know, detailed, but on the other hand, they probably won't be either.
We'll open up to questions for the student athletes. We're going to start in the second row.
Ben Bulch, Los Angeles Times. If Lauren Betts is able to play for UCLA, what kind of challenges that present? I mean, I think she's 6'7". I think that's 6 inches taller than anyone on your roster, roughly. So what kind of challenges would that present? I'm sure you've played, you know, against players her height previous this season, but what kind of challenges have you seen watching her on film, and how would you go about counteracting her if she's able to play?
We'll start with Morgan and then have Mallory answer.
You just try to push her out as far away from the basket as possible. I think there's not a ton you can do once she does get the ball. So I think trying to get her uncomfortable, and then also maybe trying to have the guards surround once she does get the ball and try to get touches, tie it up. We'll see.
Yeah, if she plays tomorrow night, I think it's obviously going to impact the game for us, but we just talked about even today being physical with all of their bigs and kind of relying on our fundamentals and guards to peel back and help us inside.
We're going to go in the third row.
Morgan, you've talked a little bit earlier this season about you and Emma being extremely competitive in practices. Have you seen a different level of aggression with her this past week, or a different demeanor from her?
Yeah, I think she's kind of been trying to get it going in practice, and I think everyone on our team has been aware of that. So it was just really good to see her stick with that mentality throughout the game. You know, I don't think she scored the first half, and then she dropped 16 in the third. So, you know, she's an awesome player, and I'm just glad that her mentality didn't change even when the ball maybe didn't fall at the beginning of the game.
We're going to go in the second row.
You have a unique aspect of having 5 senior starters. I don't know how many teams in the country have that, but how does that work to your advantage? I mean, obviously you're a veteran team that's very smart and together and does lots of good things. How does that help you, especially this time of year?
We'll start with Morgan and then go to Mallory.
I think that's what you lean on when you get to the tournament. I think as the season progressed, we had a lot of close games where I feel like we could lean on each other in our maturity, and we used that to win close games at the end of the year. And especially, I'm sure the gym will be packed tomorrow. Just leaning on each other and knowing that we've been here before and that we can do it. I think us being the more connected team is going to help us win the game tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously nerves arise in games like this and postseason, but being a veteran group and playing together for so long and this being our third NCAA postseason has been a little bit comforting in that sense. So it's nice looking in the eyes of girls that you've played with for 4 years and starting with such a vet group. It kind of helps, I think, some of the girls coming off the bench who maybe it is their first NCAA or second time playing or whatever. It kind of gives the top to bottom roster reassurance that we've been here before and we can play with anybody.
Our next question is going to come from Joe Reedy of the AP on Zoom.
Is UCLA similar to any teams that you faced this year? And then also, how much did the experience going into Iowa 2 years ago help in terms of, coming into a situation like this weekend in UCLA and going through it before?
We'll have Mallory start and then Morgan.
Yeah, I think the only similarity that I can really speak on right now is that the intimidation factor that nobody expected us to win at Iowa, and we did. So we're not scared of the matchup tomorrow. We're excited and we're grateful to be in this situation. Like Molly said today in practice before we got going, that every day is a bonus day at this point. So yeah, we've kind of been in a similar situation, so we're not turned down from this opportunity.
Okay. I honestly don't watch a ton of women's basketball throughout the year, so I don't know. Today was my first time watching UCLA on film, so I think like physicality-wise and size-wise, we haven't matched up with anyone as big as them this year. But yeah, what Mal said about coming in here, we're not scared.
We're going to go in the third row.
Mal, over the course of the season, you've gotten a lot more comfortable in the flow of the offense, finding your spots. Yesterday, it felt like you were really getting into a rhythm on that low block, finding a lot of offensive rebounds. Can you talk about how you've grown as an offensive player this year? Obviously, your defense has come a long way as well, but...
Yeah, I think some point, I think honestly it was the Xavier game that was kind of a turning point that we discovered that I kind of get in a little bit better rhythm for everybody on offense to kind of hang out a little bit lower, position myself to get the O boards and whatnot and get my teammates open. But yeah, I've definitely gotten a little bit more of a groove, and my coaches have helped me with that. But it's been interesting to see what works because obviously it is I'm a different offensive player for us in that starting group. But we've kind of worked through some kinks and it's been good. But I feel like yesterday too, I kind of got in rhythm early, which was nice. So definitely offensive rebounding has helped me as well to find my offensive rhythm.
Any more questions for the student athletes? Third row again.
Morgan, yesterday you were getting a lot of wide open shots that you normally don't get a single look at. What was it like to see that you were getting the ball with nobody around you a few times?
Yeah, I'm not used to that, so that was good. I think we did a really good job of pushing in transition yesterday and converting on our 2-on-1 opportunities, and also when they were trying to switch it up between like man and zone, I think we did an okay job of moving the ball, but there was still space there, so I'm shooting that.
Any more questions for the student athletes? Thank you both.
Thanks.
We're going to open up to questions for Coach Flannery, first in the room and then on Zoom.
Similar question. Do you expect Lauren to play? I know you're not privy to their injury reports and you don't have a crystal ball, but do you expect Lauren to play? And if so, how will you go about counteracting her size?
Yeah, I mean, we expect her to play. I mean, I think you have to prepare as if she's going to play, and if she doesn't play, you adjust that way. I'd rather prepare as if she's playing because I know what a factor she is. And like I said, I watched them quite a bit early in the season and was really impressed with how quickly they kind of integrated her because, UCLA had a lot back from last year. So to put somebody who's that talented in and get in a rhythm at the rate that they did, I thought was pretty darn impressive. But yeah, we've got to be physical before she catches the ball. I mean, that's the thing. If she catches it too deep, we don't have a chance. I mean, so if you got to, legally, you've got to be as physical as you can to get her off her spot. And she doesn't have as strong a base. Like you watch her against Peely from Utah. I mean, there's a probably 7-inch size difference, but there's also a strength difference. That Peely has that Lauren doesn't have. And so the physicality piece, we're going to rotate defenders on her. I mean, we're going to try to, assume, and she's only, when healthy, she's been a 25, 26 minute a game player. So I'm not expecting her to be on the floor for probably more than that based on she didn't play yesterday. But we will have prepared as if she's going to play. And like I said, we got to do, there will be some lineups where we can give more help that they'll put out there, and there'll be some lineups that they'll have out there where the help isn't going to be as available because they're going to have a better spacing team because they're going to shoot it better at the positions that, pretty much across the board, which was part of our problem yesterday is, UNLV shoots it, every one of those kids except the kid who was posting can make threes. So when they put kids out there that aren't necessarily floor spacers, we'll be able to crowd more. But I think we have to have good lineup recognition, which I think is something that an older team can do more than some.
Kind of following up on that, how did you think Gabriela Jaquez, did in her place yesterday, and how did they look different with her on the floor?
Yeah, she played great. I mean, she and Kiki were the keys for them early. I mean, Osborne got going in the second half, but those two kind of carried them through the first quarter and a half, and she just plays hard. I mean, she's what I would call a blender. Like she's not. I mean, she was more of a focal point of what they tried to do last night, but normally she's out there to guard, energy plays. They posted her probably more last night than they normally would, which is something that we'll have to be prepared for. But yeah, I mean, you watch her play, you admire just how hard she plays and what her motor is.
We're going to go in the third row.
Coach, there have been points this season where you've struggled to break a press, and yesterday you did a really good job.
Thanks for pointing that out, Corey.
Get the ball in deep. How were you able to do that yesterday, and how do you continue that into tomorrow's matchup and beyond?
Yeah, I guess I'd say we've worked on it a little bit more the last 2-3 weeks because we did hit some speed bumps in terms of backcourt ball security. The last, you look at our turnover numbers; they're low on the season, but I think you're also right in saying that we've struggled against pressure late in games when teams are trying to catch up, and I just think part of that is I've probably undercoached it because you think, well, we start 5 seniors, we should be able to break we've worked on it enough, we should be able to break a press, but I think the results that we had for a while would indicate that we needed to work on it more, so we have, and we've put people in the right spots. I mean, sometimes it's not what you run, it's who you put where. And that's where Emma's such a value to us because she's a bigger ball handler. So she's a great receiver and a great decision maker. Whereas you look at, Molly's 5. I know we list her at 5'7", but she's 5'6". She's medium speed. Lauren is a smaller, medium speed, quick target. So just putting people in the right spots, I think, was important. We knew they would press us some, and yeah, that's going to be important tomorrow because whether they zone press or just pick us up, I mean, we're going to have to make sure that we handle their pressure, and I would expect early pressure. Even though I thought, they had to work to win last night. I mean, Osborne played 39 minutes, and I can't remember what Kiki's minutes were, but they were pretty high too. So I mean, the score didn't indicate how competitive that game was, and I think, I think UCLA is a reasonably deep team, but we'll see what kind of sustained pressure we see, but we'll be ready for it.
Our next question is going to come from Joe Reedy from the AP on Zoom.
Jim, is UCLA similar to any team that you faced this year or any Big East squad?
Well, the obvious answer would be UConn. I mean, I wouldn't say that there are that many parallels, but from a talent standpoint, across the board, I think UConn is the UConn's the best team we've played. So I think from a talent standpoint, Aaliyah Edwards is a different type of player than Lauren Betts, but they're both elite post players, and Beckers is as good as any perimeter player in the country, maybe other than Caitlin. So I would say that's probably the biggest comp or the closest comp, but it's still a little bit different. But I also think, here's the thing, I think UConn has played us, two times a year, and so their familiarity with our offense is different than what I'm hoping UCLA's familiarity is with our offense. And I think that's kind of what we bank on in postseason, is that we play differently offensively than a lot of teams. And if we're really good at what we do and you haven't played against us, then we have a chance. If we're not really, and yesterday we were really good at what we did. We made 15 threes, but but we can still be really good without making 15 threes if we do what we do. And so that's going to be a key. And I think, you always think using your bench too is going to be important, I think, to stay fresh, because we can't stand around and win the game tomorrow. We can't go get a shot against their size and athleticism. We've got to move the ball and move bodies, and so that's going to require that we stay as fresh as we can.
Second row.
Following up on what you said, I found it interesting. So are you saying that all these teams scout you, right? But you're saying you have to actually play against it to experience it, to know to play well against your style?
I hope so. No, I mean the example, 2 years ago when we played Colorado in the first round, and they asked JR, who does Creighton remind you of in the Pac-12? And she said, nobody. So I think, we beat Colorado. And it was a dogfight. It wasn't, but she said, I think she said a little bit like Utah, but. So that's the hope, is that we are different. And like I said, UConn is the best team, but UConn gets to play us twice a year, so they have a little bit different familiarity. So we're hoping that on one-day prep that UCLA has a hard time guarding our motion, and that we make 15 threes.
I think Joe
Or close
had
to that.
Sorry, Jim. My bad.
No, you're good.
I think Joe had another question on Zoom.
Just how much does going into Iowa 2 years ago as the 10 seed and getting upset there, especially with a veteran team, benefit in a situation like this?
Yeah, I think we live in the best of all possible worlds, because we have the experience of having gone to the Elite Eight last year, and last year we were out in the first round in a really kind of a thud. So your motivation's a little bit different, when you have the confidence from 2 years ago, and you also have the motivation from knowing that we kind of just fell flat last year. Not that we didn't give effort, but we just didn't play well at all. So I like to think that's the best of all possible worlds, is you're good enough to win this game, and you're a little bit extra motivated because you didn't perform at the level that you wanted to last year. So even as a coach, I'm not any different than our players, but I'm more optimistic based on what happened 2 years ago than I might possibly have been if that hadn't happened. So I would imagine if you're 20 or 21 or 22 and you're sitting in that, or you're getting ready to play tomorrow night, that you're gonna use that as when things get tough tomorrow night, because things are going to get tough, and we have to be able to play through it, because it's, we played really well yesterday, but we didn't have 7,000 people cheering against us. We had a pretty similar fan base that UNLV had, so it'll be a little bit trickier tomorrow night, but our players, they'll be ready. When we played at UConn in front of 14,000 just a few weeks ago, so I think if any team can handle it, this team can.
We're going to go in the third row.
Yesterday, Molly picked up 9 assists. How important is it to get her going, either from a playmaking perspective or from a scoring perspective tomorrow against UCLA?
Yeah, she's important to our team, and I'll just, if you couldn't tell, I was a little upset with her on a couple of defensive assignments that she wasn't where we needed her to be. But I kept her in the game, and I had to chew on her a little bit because she's that valuable, and that's I said I don't want to have to take you out of the game, but if you keep making the same defensive mistakes but to your point, she had 9 assists, so she does a lot of things that most people don't see, and my expectations for her are high. That's why I feel like I can kind of chew on her like that, but yeah, she does a great job of kind of understanding where do I need to score it a little bit more because one or two of our 3 leading scorers are struggling, or are they going? Do I need to find them do I need to be a little bit more of a passer? I think she understands that because she's played with them so long.
Any more questions for Coach Flannery? Third row again.
On a similar note, you mentioned getting the bench going. How important is it for Kiki or Kennedy to see a couple go in the first half tomorrow?
Well, I'd like for them to see it go in, but if they play well and the ball doesn't go in, that's fine too. Kennedy played fine yesterday. The ball just didn't go in for her. But maybe tomorrow Jamie isn't 3 for her first 3 threes, and Kennedy hits 1 or 2, and Kiani hits 1. So our bench does have to play well. I mean, they don't necessarily have to shoot great. I mean, maybe it's a little bit more dispersed. Or it's different. It looks different than Jamie getting 9, but they have to play well. I mean, for sure, because we can't win without them, contributing, because we can't be so tired that, like I said, we can't be so tired that we're standing around on offense, and we can't be so tired that we're already going to be a half step slower or a little bit smaller at most positions. So being fresh is important tomorrow. They have to play well.
That's all we have time for. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, that's usually the case with me, Michael.
Appreciate it, Jim.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah.